Special meeting held on that.
Thanks, I'll be back.
I know. Denise?
Denise Pulaski, 26 Aphrodite Drive. I'm here just to update you of what's happening in the planning board meeting. In April, there was a meeting in which I was not there. By the time I came in, the planning board committee was voting. I listened to the votes and why they voted and the way they voted. I decided to Oprah that meeting, the cassettes. And by the way, I paid $60 for 3 tapes, 3 cassettes. I listened to everything on the tapes, and I was surprised of what I was listening to. I urge you to listen to the tapes. I have them if you would like to listen to them. It was everything from the way the traffic study was done, which was done in December 12, 2011, to the environmental study that was done when the endangered species were hibernating. What I found to be more troubling was the fact that one committeeman stated that he was concerned about the water issue, but had to vote yes. The planning board members had to vote yes. Excuse me. I don't have my glasses, so I really. A planning board member voted yes at the next meeting. I asked the person, which was Dorothy Ryan, if she knew the attorney for the developer, and she told me yes. Her response was, we were good friends. I asked her, isn't that a conflict of interest to vote for a good friend? She told me on record that he was her boss 10 years ago, but that they were good friends. How, to me, this is just a question. How does that make the public feel that a planning board member is voting on a developer and not looking at all the safety and security of the community? 3 other planning board members listened and was concerned about the safety, the water issues, the drainage problems, the way the study was done, and they voted properly. Thank God for those 3 planning board members. Also on the tape, a resident went up and wanted to give a petition to the planning board members, and it was refused. When I went to the last planning board meeting, I believe it was May 22nd, the Berkshire Service Group was explaining to the public it was a study for redevelopment of Tanner's Pit. In that report, it stated that this site had numerous violations, which I have right here if you would like a copy.
Thank you.
Numerous violations from operating a solid waste facility without a permit, storing demolition waste and recycling without the necessary approval from the New Jersey DEP. Failure to comply with the underground water sampling and reporting requirements contained with the New Jersey Pollution Discharge System permit. Let's see. I apologize. I left my glasses. No, thank you. That's too strong for me. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. This portion of the study area was approved for subdivision by the planning board for an application known as the Stone Hill at Barnegat. Everything that I'm saying is right on that document. The approval of this subdivision indicates an interest in the future of development of the property. In this report, under criteria D, many hazards exist on the site, including large piles of debris and contaminated soil. A review at the police data indicates that illegal actions such as illegal dumping, vandalism, and other things occur on this site.
That's Tanner's Pit, right?
Right, Tanner's Pit, yes. These factors combine to create a significant safety, health, and welfare of the community. It's right there on the report. Okay, my question was this. With this study, I asked at that meeting if the planning board or engineer did any soil Stone Hill developer do any soil testing? The answer that I received was, from the engineer, we didn't think that we had to. This was very alarming to me. We are not that far from Tanner's Pit. As some of you may know, I have been living in Barnegat for 21 years and have 2 girls with rare liver disease. I just found out that down the block, my neighbor's daughter also had liver disease. Could the soil be the problem? I do not understand why this was never done. What can we do to help the residents of Hannah Lee, Cherry Street, and Aphrodite? I would like this committee to take a step back and maybe make an ordinance for all new development that they had to do soil testing for the safety of the resident of Barnegat.
Bruce, is there, in regards to Tanner's Pit, are there anything, or is there anything, and I'm sure there are laws on the books, I mean, if we suspect a possibility of there being some contaminants that are causing, residents or children in particular from getting sick, where we can have DEP or somebody come in and check this?
You could, that's correct. I think that the reason that there wasn't as much concern about this particular property is that this property is essentially vacant and wooded and has not been disturbed. The adjoining property to which she's referring is the Tanner's Pit, and I don't believe that from the topographic mapping that was provided that the stormwater runs towards this site from the Tanner's Pit. So there wasn't as much of a concern, but there are rules associated with these type of facilities that they would be required to do groundwater monitoring and checking. So there are rules in place for the property owner to do that type of check.
Are they doing that?
I wouldn't know that. I'd have to check with the DEP.
Well, can we make a point? We will find out, and if they aren't, we'll see what we can do to institute something like that. Because I remember the problem they had up in Tom's River, and then not even talking about Ciba-Geigy, and that's something that we should look into.
Thank you. In the report, it'll state on there, they have numerous violations. They don't test the water. So I just want you to be informed that it is a major issue. They're on top of the hill. We are in the bottom of that hill, so the water does run off on our property. So I just want to look the order.
Sure, no, we'll look into that. Thank you. Mr. Pesci,
Good evening, Frank Pesci, 11 Hemlock. On resolution 379, Jake touched it in our Patriots Code. I kind of wonder, the Kelly law has been in existence for how many years now, that the obligation of the town, since they are taxpayers, we would have to pick up their garbage and recycling. So I don't know, like after all this time, we haven't. But my other question would be why we weren't. And my other question would be, since it's commingled recycling, and they got a recycling vehicle there taking recycling, they do get money for recycling. So do we have an accounting, they give us they gave us a list of how much they got from recycling?
We have in accordance with the Kelly law, you would have to calculate what the township cost is for recycling and trash collection. We have calculated that, we have the numbers, and we use those numbers to determine the reimbursement. With respect to your question, why they haven't requested reimbursement prior, this is the first year that they've requested reimbursement.
Oh, I don't have, I just wondered, I mean, they've been there for a while. And since we've been doing this, okay. The next question was, I think the general obligation bond was $6 million or something like that. Did we put a bid out on that?
The general obligation bond,
Yeah, I know.
we may have done when we finance a band, which is a bond anticipation note, we have to do that every year. We go through a competitive process in which financial
Right,
institutions.
that's it. Did that go out? I recall reading something, but we haven't gotten out for it yet?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay,
I could be wrong, but that's my knowledge.
okay, I just wondered about that. The other is, Bruce was mentioning before, I went out on a couple of particular requests about the county doing some work and about, I heard that story a long time ago, they cover manholes, gate boxes, et cetera, right? Well, I went to see their work and they had milling machines and they did it the right way. But then in retrospect, when I looked Memorial Drive, I went out Memorial Drive, so did a lot of you gentlemen, and we had our engineer there. A lot of gate boxes weren't done right. A lot of the contour wasn't done right. The catch basin was above gradient, above the, so what does it really mean? What does it really mean when you say, well, they didn't do it right because they didn't have an engineer? Well, we had an engineer and we didn't do it right. And who do you blame it on? The engineer or the contractor? Maybe the contractor. But, you know, I look at this thing, I hate when we start throwing these here snowballs at other people and say, well, the county does everything wrong, yet their list keeps on growing, that Plan C. Seems like everybody wants to get work done, and I guess they really don't care about their gate boxes and valve boxes and man, they're all covered, you know, and then they have to go search and look for them. Maybe give the road department or water department a job, you know, go out and look where they cover them up. I don't think that'd be the case. I think the county's responsible. I've seen some of their highway work they've done. I've seen a Southern Regional parking lot that they did, 2 streets down by Jay, and I asked to go and I went, and they did a good job. I saw the milling machines, you know, that were there. And they rented.
Dave, do we have any requests in for Schedule C for any streets?
Not for paving.
Not for paving?
We were going to have one out, you remember, down in,
Pebble Beach?
no, the Jake's $1 Million House. That's it. Oh, where they got the tennis courts? Right down here.
Oh, Meadow Edge.
Meadow Edge. Don't you remember, we were thinking about redoing that basketball. That would have been an ideal situation. Down at the lower shore, where they used to have the garbage cans and all that, to redo those tennis courts down there, because that had been a good idea, and we were looking at that time for the county to do it, but of course, we never put in a request, so it never happened. I think it's a good idea. There's a lot of work that they can do that we can benefit from, and there's other engineering work that we need our engineer, and we benefit that way too. But you just can't axe one out with saying you don't want them because it's not gonna cost us anything, an engineering fee. I think that Hess and Birdsall and all made, last year was $600 and some thousand, so they're not starving. And I always said to John, you gotta help us out a little bit and cut your bills a little bit.
And he has. He has.
Yeah, the last thing that you mentioned is you're not quite accurate on the case, with Walters. I brought and I do have it, and I still have it, and that's where Jerry and I had the bet. What had happened is that our attorney representing us at that time, and you know who he was, decided for whatever reason that he didn't want Pinelands in the suit. In fact, they went to the court was ready to approve it, they had enough to go in with. And it says in there that the judge, since hearing from the defendant, meaning Barnegat, does not want intervention by Pinelands Alliance. So on that he ruled, and he wrote it in pen, in the habit. So they weren't allowed in. The other thing is that when the ruling just came down, which was via the telephone, okay, there was no court case, there was no witnesses. What that says, it constitutes, it says, either we pay him $200,000 if we don't give up that land, or keep the land the way it is and pay him the $200,000.
No,
That's read it. Okay, I'll bring it to the next meeting.
And I'll read it.
Read it. That's exactly what it says.
The judge had
The
indicated that.
judge had nothing to do with it, Al.
The judge indicated, Frank, I was the one that led the charge not to go against the agreement that was made. Now, we went out, they sat down, we had our attorneys sit down, The judge indicated to our attorneys that he was gonna resort to the previous zoning before that took place, which meant that there would have been more homes built. The 200,000, if all it would have cost was $200,000 to keep it that way, we pull that right out of open space. That land is worth anywhere from $3 to $5 million if Walters wants to sell it. We are not going to open up or give the township
Then if you can build on it.
open.
And we would have the right to disallow that, which
The judge-
Highlands,
the judge-
Highlands did. What do you think we're in this mess for? Highlands did. They came here, and there was a meeting here, and hundreds of people that had property there weren't allowed to build.
The Pinelands Commission.
Highlands, yeah.
But
So
then they reversed
once we said
themselves.
Endangered species, bang.
But they
We
re-
decide the same. The town has the the right to decide that we want to keep it. Okay. And that's why open space is for, is to buy properties.
But
or
the
whatever.
agreement also stated
But I'll
that
bring
if the
case-
if the Pinelands Commission, you know, they did the study and they reversed themselves, then we would have to comply. And we fought it, and I'm not gonna put the township in jeopardy of losing a $5 to $6 million lawsuit. And the rest of the committee felt the
I
same
don't-
way.
5 or 6, no, I don't think so. But don't forget, we're gonna be paying that much money every year for every kid. If you got 160 houses and only $10,000 a kid, this does $1.6 million there for 12, forever, not even 12
It's
years.
buildable property, Frank, you know how that works. It's
I
buildable property.
know exactly how it works, and we should have stuck to our guns. Every time we turn around, you heard the gentleman up here before, Mr. Giles, says, oh, everything that Walter seems to do in this town is he gets grandfathered. Nobody else gets grandfathered. He
No,
gets
that's not
grandfathered on
true.
this,
That's not true,
What,
Frank.
we are now building in this town, I sat on the planning board, every time on that planning board, if a major developer wants to do something in this town, guess who he's gotta pay retribution for? To Walters, for the water system, for sewer. Whose roads did it go through initially? The towns. Those roads in Ocean Acres were the towns in the county. And we're still paying for that. And if you own lots there, you are now paying $50,000 as a lot owner to pay him in order to build your house. That's ridiculous. Thank you.
Sir? Oh, yeah, Frank, I'm sorry.
Hi. Mr. Mayor, gentlemen, and Township Clerk, Frank Troyer, Pinewood Estates. I have 3 issues to bring up. One is about the swales on Route 72 that were made and they're unfinished. And also, I believe there's a road hazard now created by whatever they were constructing there, where there's a lower lip on the edge of the roadway. If your car goes off that on the side there, it could cause you to go right into one of those.
Right, I remember you bringing it up. Dave, did we get an answer from the?
Yeah, we discussed that with, in fact, we discussed it with the Pinelands Commission. On Route 72, they are extending or widening the shoulder as you head westbound to be used as an evacuation lane in case of a storm or something. In conjunction with that work, the DEP required the DOT to put in those swales, those drainage swales. That was a requirement of DEP that was placed on DOT. I don't think the project has been completed yet. I think additional paving needs to take place, and as a result of that additional paving, there won't be that lip between the existing roadway and the
Yeah,
new.
it's been there for a couple of months now, so.
DOT's in charge of the project.
It's my understanding that the engineers are working on some plan revisions and haven't finished them yet.
I'm concerned about the summer traffic coming back, and there's gonna be a lot of traffic coming back on that road. And, some people might want to use that side, even though there's no line over there, to show them that particular piece is not finished.
We can certainly reach out to them and find out what their schedule may look like in terms of.
Just for
completing the work.
safety purposes.
Right.
And there's, that traffic light that's anticipated, the resolution for the traffic light on
532?
532 and 72. I believe we already have a stop sign here with a light on it.
Flashing, not
It's a flashing light,
not a
yeah.
traffic signal.
And most of us people at Pine Estates, we have problems going in that direction when we come out in the summertime. Now, it's gonna be even harder for us to get out from Pine, to go west. So I would just try to, figure out some kind of a way to put some kind of traffic signal in that area, because we also have a firehouse there, to slow down the traffic in that area so we can get out and go in that direction. And then the other thing is that the status request on my request for the decrease in rent from the rent leveling board. I don't know, if you got any information on that.
Well, in order, you submitted a request to myself and the township committee
Yeah.
that there should be a rent decrease based upon certain factors that did or did not occur in the park last year. In order to move ahead on that request, there has to be some sort of dollar value assigned
Yeah, I
to
know.
that.
I think you mentioned it to me last time, and I tried to get it in writing from David Hale. And I also wrote the corporate headquarters about it. Never got any answer from him. I did have a conference call and I asked him about it. There's also monies being turned in from some of the people that cannot mow their own lawn over there. And the park comes in and also charges $50 an hour for them to mow their lawn. And it could be higher within the 30-day period. So the thing is that those particular monies that are coming in should be investigated, because that's part of our rental for the equipment that's being used, for the gas that's being used, and all the things that we have to pay for in our maintenance fee. So I would certainly request the township to look into this matter a little bit further, because I've been trying to push it, and I think I need a little bit of help on your behalf to help us out to try to relieve this problem.
They don't have an association, correct? Because they do. And what's the position on the association? I mean, with this?
I personally don't belong to the association. I have no idea what the association's doing as far as their end of the deal is. But I think they should be looking into this also.
Well, they
I
would be
strongly
the
recommend
ones.
that. I strongly recommend that the township looks into this matter.
We could check with the association and see, because basically they would be the go-between. And then,
Well-
we could help, if we can do that, we can try to influence things, but
I know they're moving along with the pool, because I see them working on it. And there was some health conditions also that I addressed, and I got some of the things that were necessary, as far as some garbage pail covers throughout the park. Some of these garbage pails that they stand out in the playground or anything like that, they weren't covered. And they should be covered all the time.
the township, I know we intervene, and all we could do is we
We've
can
done
contact the association and keep us abreast of what's going on.
They started working on trees. I still have a tree in my backyard that's dead. They didn't even do anything with that for the past 2 years.
All right, and you don't have to wait for a meeting you can just call town hall or come on down and we'll set up a meeting.
Yeah, okay,
You don't have to wait every
I
2
just came down to just give you a little bit of insight on what's going on out there as far as the road conditions
Sure.
are too, So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Chekia.
Rob Winward. Excuse me. The trees were paid for by we the people.
The trees died.
They died?
The trees died.
Okay, so.
Oh,
you
killed.
were
We don't know.
okay, So maybe we can replace it, but who put the cement over where they died? Is the township? The owner?
Yeah, I just put the
Well-
pavers over that one particular area.
Okay, well,
because-
that's not his property to
No,
do that
he
with.
just, when he was patient.
So maybe we could look into replacing the trees, and or if he's gonna take the trees down, maybe he should plant 4 trees in place of it somewhere,
Why does he have to replace anything?
or the township, replace the trees.
Right, I mean, but we
The
took
taxpayer
a
paid
straw
for them, they
poll.
died. The other ones were they're under warranty, so how soon after did they
I don't know,
die?
I don't.
Someone could have poured something in there to
Phil,
make them die.
my opinion, Phil,
I'll stop
my
right there with
opinion,
the
is
trees.
we're not
And
gonna
the-
argue,
the
this is
trees-
like ridiculous.
It's
I
not
don't wanna
ridiculous.
replace those 2 trees, Mr. Lasella.
He don't wanna
No,
replace.
we don't wanna
No,
replace
you
it,
don't
so,
wanna
no,
replace
we
it.
don't wanna replace
But you know
them.
how they died?
I don't
The
know.
leaves died. You know what that meant? They poured that into the
Who
roots.
did? Who did?
That was only
Who
one
is
of
a
them.
mystery.
Okay, so then, so
Okay?
where do we go from here?
Because, and if we were doing it, Inspector Rousseau,
Phil,
we
next
would
question.
say,
Phil,
it
we're not
must have
wasting
been the
time on
people that didn't
this.
want them there in the first place.
Next question, please.
Okay?
Next
Now,
question.
next question. The field, you say it was gonna be done at the end of June? Really? Because I went down there for the first time since the fall. To me, it looks like it's coming. I didn't get up, I just passed a little bit, you know. Looks pretty good to
Next
me.
Saturday, is grand
But-
opening.
But I also want to say that I was up in Bloomfield and how do you say that park? Kessening Park, Kessening Park? Yeah, beautiful turf field for lacrosse. I went I was in Manalapan the other day, yesterday actually. I passed, and on the front of their field where it was turf, it actually said paid for or funded by the Open Space and Recreation Fund and or tax similar to what we have. So if we're gonna do it, let's be out in the open and put it in before the people to say, let's make it recreation, because recreation is open space. Now, Alonga was doing that. We can also buy some property, but in reference to the Hannah Lee situation, we have to learn a lesson. When you go to look for, and we could use this, you don't go crabbing at the dock in the middle of the winter. So you wouldn't look for endangered species that hibernate in the middle of the winter. So when there's sensitive property, as we have close on that side of Route 9 as well as this side, what we have to do is builders know when they have to do this. So you have to outsmart them. And what you have to do is if someone's going to build, they know they're going to build in the spring for next year, that environmental study has to be done to coordinate the life cycle of that ecosystem. Because I don't go crabbing in the middle of the winter, and you don't go looking for mosquitoes in the middle of the winter either.
No, it's a good point. What's your question now?
That's the question.
Okay.
They're using something from the winter, so maybe an ordinance or resolution would require that what I just said. Because we're looking back now that they're going to use that same report for that property they said they weren't going to develop yet. But that's the property next to it, that they were in the meeting that night you were here, Al, saying that they weren't going to develop that property for a long time. As soon as they approved it, while 3 people said that they had reservation on the ECHO report, okay? Now they're going to build on that because they were back in, I think, last week or the week before. So you can't trust a builder, and we should have learned that lesson a long time ago. This town's being chastised. I would like, before anything else is ever approved for this planning board, and you have the power to do it, that you require ECHO, anything to do with the ecology of that property, be done in the time that the species may and will propagate. And that's when you look for it. You don't look for something that's in the ground and that don't even exist at that time of the year. You have the power to request that if you're going to build,
The planning board.
yes, you make the
Bruce.
planning board do it.
Let me, Bruce, this is all taken into consideration when it's
Because
done,
we
correct?
had a problem, and that problem is, a long time ago in Stafford Township, Tom Powers, they were having a problem. Remember Manchester when they had the problem years and years ago? That flows southeast. Now, you know and I know that the water pressure that's we're getting our water from is keeping the water that seeped through Tanner's Pit and that pit up here. That was moving across and under Barnegat, southeast across the bay. We don't know where that pollution is yet that they didn't fix.
That's why we monitor the water.
That's why that water and those core samples are very important, even next to Tanner's Pit.
Right,
Because the flow
and we're gonna address that.
reflects the,
I agree,
that.
and we're gonna
And,
address
you know,
that.
we passed something by this planning board with 3 people having the reservation about that system, and one about water. Now, you have to start putting your foot down and start putting things on the books, like I just said. You do that system, you do those tests when what you have to look for.
Phil, we
Because
operate
we have a
according.
new genius in here telling us that they
Phil,
didn't exist.
we operate according to the law. Mrs. Pavlovsky brought up a good point, and we're gonna move on that. And that's all I can
And
tell
I'm
you.
adding
We
on to
cannot,
that, what
we
she
cannot
said.
influence the
I didn't ask you to
separate boards.
influence, but you can request.
The township
Yeah.
can operate on
Now,
its own.
one other thing,
All right,
someone
last
wrote
question.
on that, I don't go on that patch too much anymore. But let me tell you something. Someone said, what would I think it was Mike Howard and someone else do to lower the taxes in this town? Well, when you have the budgets are, you know, even though you say you didn't raise it, you lowered it, you still have to take in the spending. But you know where I would start? I would sue the company that created the problem in the first place and put pressure on them, and that's what called creative assessments. Who did our assessments?
In 2007,
Yeah, that one that they screwed up.
they didn't screw up. They actually did a
Well, they
good
didn't screw
job.
up. The ones you mean that gave the housing, when they had the 3,000.
It was at the height of the market. Were there a
The height of
couple?
the market busted in September, and they were doing this in the spring. And you mean to tell me that these geniuses and the real estate people in this country and the bankers didn't know what was going on? Yes, they did. They knew exactly what was going on, that the market was going to drop because it started to
I
drop.
agree, but we have no control over that.
Well, the thing is, and I'll say it again, they didn't just do us. I'm sure they were doing other towns at the same time they were doing us. I mean, they don't just do one town at a time. If they did, they'd be out of business. So what problems post-assessments did the other towns incur? Similar to ours, because the market went this way and that way? Did they have the same appeals? Those appeals were, they're the cause of the revenue drop, along with the rest of it. But
So your question
The
is,
question
are we
is,
gonna
did-
sue them?
no, let's sue them. Who is going to put them on the carpet and ask them what data did they have in June and May about the market themselves? Because they have to know what's going on. This market, from mortgages to what it costs to put a driveway in, to who's buying houses, what level
All
income.
right, let me answer the question.
And, you know,
The question is,
So don't use them again.
That's a good point.
That's the point.
all right,
The other is, I think Jake was trying to ask you, and I remember Jerry saying that the township decided not to let them into it. That's on record and it's verbal. Okay? He's right about that. But what he was asking you, and I guess I have to ask the senator this, our attorney, who has that right when we're in litigation with the attorney recommending something to the entire council? Who has that authority to tell the attorney not to include someone and or make that type of a decision?
what do you mean
Does
not to
In
include?
other words,
Not to include who?
the Pinelands Commission.
Okay,
What I'm trying to get at is, one of you can't make that decision.
no,
3 of you had to make that decision or more. Now, when and where did you make that decision when our attorney said to you or recommended, we don't know what was said, even if it was in a closed-door meeting, you still had to come out here to vote on it? If that had been. But you just said, yes, you had to vote on that.
If I would, no.
Who
If our
gave
attorney-
the authority to the attorney not to let them in after he said, to you maybe, "No, we don't want them in here"?
There seems to be a lot of questions with regard to
Right.
this particular issue. And my recommendation, since you're all gonna be back at the next meeting, you
Maybe
wait
not
for
me, I don't
Mr.
know.
Well, maybe you should. Wait for Mr. Dasty to come back, since he has personal knowledge, he handled the litigation, and he
Yeah,
will
but-
be able to answer your questions.
Senator, with all due respect,
Yes.
I understand what you're saying, but that's not what I was getting to the point. The point is, we already have on record that Mr. Dasty did say that the township didn't want them in. Speaking for the town as the township
Right.
attorney.
Okay.
But the governing body, do they, once an attorney, we won't even mention Mr. Dasty, an attorney tells a governing body, I recommend you to do this. Who and what part of that governing body can say okay?
We had,
Governing body.
Who? Has to be a vote?
Governing body.
Okay.
he's
How
asking
many
us
out of the
whether or not
governing
we have
body?
to bring it
Jake
out
is
here.
trying to ask you, when that happened, who and where did you vote as the governing body not to let them in the lawsuit after an attorney would tell a governing body?
We had
happened?
multiple, and I remember now, we
Okay.
had multiple closed session meetings.
Yeah.
We bring the attorney in,
Mhm.
what's the status?
Right,
He gave us his feedback,
right.
and things like that were discussed in
Okay.
closed session.
I heard that. But in closed session, did you take a vote to say, let them in? That's what I'm trying, that's what Jake is asking you. Was there a vote needed?
Hold on.
Was there a settlement?
I have no clue. I'm not looking for a
No,
settlement.
no settlement.
What I'm looking for,
Was it court order?
Mr.
No court
Connors,
order.
is,
No
Okay, so
settlement.
then it's,
I'm not addressing the lawsuit or anything like that. What I'm addressing,
I can't answer your question without being familiar with the
Right,
specific
okay,
lawsuit.
well,
Because
that's-
there are
okay.
conditions that might change the answer to
we're
your
not
question.
changing, there's no conditions changing here. What
Well,
we're doing
there-
is,
there
this
is.
has to do with the past.
Well then, if it's the past, why not wait for Mr. Dasty to be here and he
Okay.
can answer your question?
Here's the question. The clerk takes the vote.
Is there something I'm saying that you're not?
There's something that we're
Bill.
on the same page, but at different times.
Okay.
Next meeting, Mr.
Yeah,
Dasty will be
What I want to
here.
know is,
Next
does a
meeting.
governing body
Okay.
have to in majority? Forget what happened here.
Depends.
Depends. Who gives the authority to the attorney?
That,
As they
Governing
said,
body.
the town, when the attorney says the township
right.
doesn't want you in the lawsuit, the township, meaning the governing body, after we told you now, who on the governing body can authorize the township not to be involved on the recommendation of an attorney?
And that question will be answered by Mr. Dasty.
But did any of you guys vote on it? Was a vote needed to make that happen?
I think I've addressed your question. I may not have answered it, but
No,
I've addressed
no.
it. And you'll get your answer when the attorney who is handling the matter is here to provide you with that information.
But,
And I'm gonna advise the governing body to say no more.
Okay.
no
Thanks,
more.
Phil.
So we don't know if there was a vote or no
Phil,
vote
thank
needed
you.
for that particular.
Wait till Mr. Dasty's
agenda,
back.
Part of the agenda, that's
Thank
all I
you,
was
Phil.
asking.
I gave you, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fernandez?
Walt Fernandez, 31 Fifth Street. Time for my annual thing for Day on the Bay. We have one coming up this month, June 24. With some checks from some donations that I've gotten already. Some more are coming in. I grovel beg for all the funds. For those of you that don't know, sitting in the audience, this is a day when the township insures us for the day. We get a marina in town to donate the marina for the day. Then we get people with boats who donate their boats, their fuel, and their time for the day. And then we give rides to people with special needs out in the bay. We average about 200 people plus or minus on any day that we do this. This one in June 24th is my 12th one that we're doing. Yeah, time flies, we're having fun. It's growing by leaps and bounds, but what I need desperately, a lot of my boat captains in years past have sold their boats. So I usually need about a dozen boats, and as of today, I have 2, mine and somebody else's, one of my past captains. So if any of the papers are here, if they could put anything out on this, would be great, especially about the boats. We take any kind of boat. The first one that we're having, again, is at Bob's Bay Marina. We do have a date in August, but I don't give it out now because I don't want it publicized. I only want, otherwise people will blow off June and I get too many people in August. So really the only one we want to talk about is the June one. We take people with special needs. Could be their family members, their friends. We take parties, people, 6, 10, 11, it depends. I just have to find a boat to take them. We take people who use regular wheelchairs. We take people who use motorized wheelchairs. We've taken service dogs on the boats. There's no obstacle that we haven't overcome to get these people to do what we take so naturally. And so, unappreciative, a lot of us, about going out in the bay as a whole population. This last one that we did last year, we had people coming off the boat for the first time crying. Oh my gosh, what happened? One was a grandmother, the first time she heard her grandson laugh because he got splashed. This other poor soul, he'd come off the boat, he was in a wheelchair, used a wheelchair. He was soaked from head to toe. I mean, it looked like somebody just put him under a faucet. They had caught a rogue wave in the bay, and he was on a pontoon boat, and it just came right over his head. He comes off the boat, his whole party, they were all crying. But it was crying, they were all so happy. They never got wet, they never tasted salt water. He never had so much fun. Thank God it wasn't a motorized wheelchair. Salt water will do that. But, what we take, so, it's easy and it comes every day. I want to go to the bay, I want to go to the beach. This population never even thinks, a lot of them, to even do that. So this is a cause, I think, very worthwhile. It's grown every year. The police department come. They do ident a person where they put people in the data banks. They give them a picture ID. They get all their stats on them. We have fire company brings out a fire truck. Quality Ambulance donates a rig and a crew for the day until I have the last boat in the water is back. They stay there from the beginning until the last boat comes back in. Who else? The police come, quality comes, fire comes. This year we're having a DJ. We're having face painting. Valhalla Pirates are coming. Most Valhalla Pirates does it for free. Quality Ambulance does it for free. Most of these people come and once I explain them what we're doing, they do it for free. We got at Bob's Bay because I did the first one at Cheers when I went to Bob's Bay to go rent a boat because I was worried about boats. The first thing Gloria said, how come you're not doing it in my marina? So she's been on board ever since. So, I mean, we have them fighting over the first thing in the summer. They want to know when are you coming with the boat thing? When are you coming with the boat thing? So, if any of these want to help, just come see me after the meeting. Everything goes through me, all volunteers, all the boats, all that. And I'll put it all together and we have a good day on the 24th. So, thank you for your time.
Thanks. Mrs. Clementi, Ms. Clementi.
Marion Clementi, 565 East Bay. Thank you for noting that there's going to be Oyster Creek siren thing. I'd also appreciate, tomorrow there's a safety hearing on Oyster Creek at Quality Inn. That I think behooves people to go to. This was something that got rescheduled because the last one that they scheduled was to be the dog and pony show, not a safety hearing as they're required to do. So they had to reschedule. So I would appreciate your publicizing that. Maybe you can put it on Nixle tomorrow. That
What time is it tomorrow?
6 o'clock.
At And Tom's River,
Tom's River Quality.
okay, we can nixle that.
All right, I'll forward you the details.
I appreciate that, thank you. Mr. Howard?
Mike Howard, Birdsall Street. On the handicap matter that I've been hearing a couple of times here, I've heard from one resident here in town, something about the boards do not extend out to the water line at the beach. I personally haven't looked at it. Apparently they have, and have indicated that they can't get to the water because of some kind of pathway you put down.
We have like a rolling mat that rolls
Right,
out.
it doesn't reach the water even at high tide from what I gather. It's not something I use, but something maybe the town can look into. Again, like I said, I heard it from maybe people who use a wheelchair. As far as those trees are concerned, I hate beating this dead horse here, but I'm very disappointed. I heard a couple different things. First, that the town people that have the businesses there don't want it. Then when you looked around, a bunch of committee people said that they didn't want it. I don't understand the problem here with putting 2 trees back, that the story is, Mr. Milchiando said one he believes was poisoned a period of time ago. The other one was hit by the county plows. Somebody should replace the one that's hit. Why is it up to the business people to choose whether they want a tree or not? Can Sweet Jenny's walk out there with a chainsaw and cut down the 2 trees in front of his business?
No,
Why
no,
why
you know
not?
they
Why
can't,
not?
because it's against the law.
Okay, then why should this other individual have the option rather of saying, no, those 2 trees were taken down, one by the county and one allegedly poisoned, but I don't want them put back again.
Well, he's not preventing us from putting it back.
It was said here at the beginning of the meeting that
He was asked.
He was asked. He said he doesn't want it.
Right. But
Right.
ultimately, we have the final decision.
Right, and for
So-
some reason, you've decided that 2 trees out of a whole section of trees on that avenue should not be put back in place.
I don't see the big deal. I don't see.
I don't see the big deal why they're not put back. There's a 4-foot square hole on the sidewalks there. One is still there. The other one is still there, but somebody put pavers over and apparently it was the business owner. So
Okay.
we either have to replace the trees, which I believe they should be replaced, or have the owner who doesn't want those trees there pay for the concrete work to fix the sidewalks.
If the majority of this committee wants to put the trees up, the trees will be put up. And I don't think there's a majority. Is there a majority? There's no majority. I mean, we asked when I came in.
Again, I don't understand why the majority wouldn't want to make the downtown part of our town here look uniform. There's 2 trees missing. There's trees on both sides there. Everybody takes care of the trees. I just saw Sweet Jenny's trimming the trees in front of their place. Looked very nice. Yet these 2 trees, one hit by the county again, that was the information that was given to me, and the other one allegedly poisoned by somebody, that we're not gonna replace them. So we're gonna have 2 trees missing just because allegedly the business owner
No.
has elected.
And
That was the first thing that was said. That was the first thing that was said.
obviously, they're gonna ask the people in the area. I mean,
Why
I don't
would you
think.
ask the people in the area?
Because it's right in front of their
So what?
establishment. I don't want the trees personally. I don't understand.
I don't understand.
Mike, I don't understand why you make an issue out of this.
Because
This
there's
is
the
ridiculous.
downtown
4
has a
meetings.
certain look. Three meetings. The downtown has a certain look. Those trees were put there because people apparently at that time wanted them. If you're gonna not want 2 trees, again, Sweet Jenny's poisoned theirs, we'll say, and I'm not saying they're doing that because they won't. So we don't put those back. So we have a hodgepodge of things all over the place.
It doesn't look like a hodgepodge down there.
It looks like that, and it's been
Well,
looking like that.
If the committee wants to change their mind, I told you, we'll go ahead with what the consensus of the committee is, period. Next question.
And again, as I said, well, then if the township decides that, then somebody, again, why should my tax dollars have to pay to repair the sidewalk? Because you have a hole in the sidewalk. You have a stump of a tree sitting there, cut off at the ground. The other one, someone's taken it upon themselves to fill it in with some sort of paver block. It doesn't look, again, we have a certain look that we're looking for in this town. A tree gets hit by a car in the park. A couple days later, the administrator does a great job, he replaces the tree.
I'll ask the committee again, if they decide they wanna do it, but
Why
as
don't
of
we
right
ask- Why don't
now,
we ask, not only the committee, why don't we ask somebody like the Shade Tree Commission, or maybe the people who take care of the little barrels or something like that? Apparently, somebody just said that somebody paid for those trees out of their money. We the
I
people
have no
here.
knowledge.
That's taxpayer money.
They were there for a long time, those streets. I've been there 15 years.
I know they've been there a long time, and that's why I don't see why they shouldn't be back where they belong. That's the point I'm trying to make on. And as far as the handicapped on the beach there, and then also, as far as bus stops go, what is the financial arrangements on bus stops? Do we pay for bus stops? Do the buses pay for it? Do we pay the maintenance on them, or what's the story?
You're talking about bus shelters?
The bus shelters, correct.
The two in the downtown, the two, like
Yes.
cedar ones, they were donated, Walters put them up, the
Right.
engineering was donated, they were all donated to town. We maintain, the township
Okay,
maintains those.
the one I'm interested in,
Other ones, we don't own, the media company that does the advertising, they own them. And if there's an issue with one, like the one that's missing,
the one that's missing.
yeah, they're the one, they're supposed to, I guess, replace
It's a
that.
car accident, I guess, and there should have been some sort of insurance, and that thing should
Normally,
be.
if one of the windows get, or glass gets.
Right,
broken,
I've seen
they
that,
have to put
but I see a
back.
bunch of, there's one gentleman I see there standing there all the time. He takes the bus all over, and he's been doing it for years, and he's standing out in the rain all the time. There was one there, there's still electric in the ground, I don't see why
The
it's
original
not.
agreement with that company was that they put those shelters up at no cost to the township whatsoever.
For the
just
advertising.
So they could advertise.
Correct. Well, why don't we see if they wanna put it back up so they can advertise it?
They will.
Thank you.
thank you. Anybody else? You have a motion to close? All those in favor? Aye. Resolution 2012-300. Oh, I'm sorry. New business, approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Raymond Lasella?
Yes.
Raymond Morano?
Yes.
Raymond Melchiondo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Siroli?
Yes. Formal action agenda, resolution 2012-300.
Resolution authorizing payment of bills in the amount of $1,363,340.68.
Do I have a motion to adopt? Roll call?
Raymond Lasella? Raymond Morano?
Yes.
Raymond Melchiondo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy? Mayor Siroli?
Yes. Resolution 2012-301.
Resolution authorizing emergency temporary appropriations.
Please take it outside. I didn't hear that. Can you say that again? Yeah, I didn't think so. 2012-301.
Resolution authorizing emergency temporary appropriations for the current fund.
So moved.
Roll call?
Raymond Lasella?
Yes.
Raymond Morano?
Yes.
Raymond Melchiondo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Billy?
Yes.
Mayor Siroli?
Yes. Consent agenda.
The below listed items are considered to be routine by the Township of Barnegat and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no formal discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, this item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Raymond Lasella?
Yes.
Raymond Morano?
Yes.
Raymond Melchiondo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor
Yes.
Billy? Mayor Siroli?
Yes. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.